Hi and welcome back. My name's Tiffany and I'm the International Witch. Today I'm going to be going over some of the history of the spring equinox as well as making my spring equinox altar. I hope you'll follow along with me. The spring equinox is a time when the day and night are perfectly equal. The same thing happens at the fall equinox. The spring equinox has been important for people for many generations because it dictated farming, and being able to provide food for your family was a means of life or death. We can even see this back into prehistoric, pre-written days, with Stonehenge being perfectly aligned to the moon cycles and the sunrises. So we know that it had some importance. Now, whether that was only spiritual or farming, obviously we know farming was important, so I'm going to go with farming. There's also a temple in Yucatan in Mexico that whenever the sun sets on spring equinox and autumn equinox, it looks like a snake is climbing down the stairs and ends at a statue of the snake's head. And it's called El Castillo. It's really, really pretty. You can see some YouTube videos on the actual climbing the snake. So way before Christianity, way before written history, we knew when the spring and fall equinox hit, and it was very important for us. Did you know that in pre-medieval times, rabbits were actually seen as bad luck because it was thought that witches turned into rabbits, and they would drink all the milk from your cows and eat all of your vegetables, and you would starve. They believed that only way you could kill a witch in her form of a hare is by shooting her with a silver bullet or stabbing her with a silver crucifix. However, there was ritual burials. However, there was ritual. That's all, folks. I can't say that word. However, there were ritual burials of rabbits in the Neolithic age, showing their importance as a sign of life and rebirth. It wasn't until around the 1500s that rabbits kind of got a different name, and that was purely because rabbits are able to have two litters. A female rabbit is able to get pregnant while she is still currently pregnant with another litter, carrying two litters at a time. But unfortunately, the Christians weren't smart about that. They didn't realize what was going on, so they associated the rabbit with giving a virgin birth because the rabbit was able to have a litter with no male around, not knowing that it was already previously pregnant. And they linked this to Mary and of course her virgin birth. So around 1530 is the first time you ever see the rabbit associated with Christianity. And that was specifically in the Titian, Mary, and Infant Jesus with rabbit, and that was the only time. As a matter of fact, in Leviticus 11:6, it states that the rabbit is actually an unclean animal. It says the hare, for even though it chews the cud, it does not have divided hoofs. It is unclean for you. So all this time, Christians believed that the rabbit was unclean.
Shh. Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
As a matter of fact, in Britons, if you are British, you're gonna have to excuse me. I know some of our words are not pronounced the way you pronounce them, so I'm gonna try to pronounce, but if I'm incorrect, I'm sorry. No offense. Leicestershire, England.
Strength, I swear to God. There's 150,000 ways to mispronounce that, and you missed every one of them. You missed every one of them.
So in Leicestershire, England, in 1790, the local parson tried to stop the hare pie scramble. That's what it was called. It was a custom of hunting and eating rabbits. They would make a hare pie and eat it. And in 1790, the local parson tried to stop it due to its pagan associations. So this argument that the rabbit and rabbit customs at this time is not pagan is just laughable. But, you know, Christians love to pick and choose their holidays from pagan holidays. And don't even get me started on the god that sacrifices himself and is reborn every year at spring. You know, Attis, consort of Sybil. Which brings me to the more controversial topic. Is Ostara, or Eostre, the earlier form of Easter? The Venerable Bede was a medieval monk who was tasked with recording the transition from paganism to Christianity. He is often considered the father of English history. He was born in 672, and since the Christianization of England didn't start until the end of the 6th century, it put him in a great position to record all the names of the gods and goddesses because they weren't extinct during his time. They were still very much around. And another point, the researchers who thought that Bede made up this goddess, it doesn't make any sense. They believe all of his other writings, but suddenly he makes up a goddess. Doesn't make sense. They had no problem believing in the goddess Bede, which was literally mentioned right before Eostre. In chapter 15 of his work, The Reckoning of Time, Bede's exact translation is Eostre month has a name which is now translated Paschal month, and which was once called after the goddess of theirs named Eostre, in whose honor feasts were celebrated in that month. Now they designated that Paschal season by her name, calling the joys of the new rite by that time-honored name of the old observance. And if you look at it, he didn't say anything wrong. He's not saying anything about an Easter rabbit, but it's true. If you look at other cultures, they use Pasqua, Pasquale, Paschal. English and Germanic peoples are the only ones who call it Easter. And that's exactly what he said. Most of the issues started to arise around 1874, around Adolf Holtzman and his book Dutch Mythology. In his book about Dutch myths, he wrote, "The hare is inexplicable to me, but probably the hare was a sacred animal of Ostara, just as there is a hare on the statue of Abnoba, which is a Diana statue that was found in Karlsruhe, Germany. I'm so sorry, I'm butchering names. It's a statue with a hare and a dog, and she's leaning on what looks to be piles of eggs or fruit. That has been debated, but this Diana iconography with the rabbit was found in prehistoric Roman times in Germany. So this is a Dutch researcher talking about Dutch history, Dutch mythology, and Germanic mythology. But that seems to be the phrase that tipped the whole world off, because he said the hare may have laid the eggs according to German folklore. So once again, he's just writing about what he's seeing. He's going around hearing all these stories and he's writing about them. It was in the second volume of the Dutch mythology that Brothers Grimm jumped in. And now, if you know the history of Brothers Grimm, they were German scholars who went around the countryside collecting all these folklores from peasants who did not have them written down before. Now, whether you believe the Grimm brothers were great or bad, that's a fact. They were scholars who traveled to collect the stories of the peasant side. And in the second volume of the Dutch mythology, the Brothers Grimm goes on to say, "The heathen Easter had much in common with the May feast and the reception of spring, particularly in the matter of bonfires. Then, through long ages, there seems to have lingered among the people Easter games, which the church itself had to tolerate. I allude specifically to the custom of Easter eggs and to the Easter tale, which preachers told from the pulpit for the people's amusement, connecting it with Christian reminiscence." He's not saying anything other than the church had to tolerate our customs and our traditions and our folklore, and we laughed about it. Why do people have a hard time believing people who are literally describing what they are going through in their lives? This is what the Brothers Grimm encountered in their lifetime. And as early as 1902 is when you start seeing the first Easter bunny turned from bird kind of thing in the papers. But before that, there was no such story of a bird turning into a rabbit and Ostara, using him as her sidekick. But Do I believe Easter started with Christianity? Absolutely not, and I'm sorry. But with the history of how spring equinox is so important, I think it's ridiculous to believe that. Now that I've lost a couple of viewers, now on to my spring equinox altar. One thing that I don't think gets talked enough about in the pagan community is before any spell work, you need to raise your energy for that spell. I kind of view spell work as alchemy. You put something in and you get something back. When you use herbs, you are putting in extra energy for a specific intention, but also if you raise your own energy beforehand by, getting in the mood, getting a ritual bath, fully immersing yourself in this need, then I think that you will get that energy back. So I always spend some time before a ritual either getting dressed, taking, pretty foot baths, or like today, I'm going to be in the spring mindset with a pretty spring cup, and I'm going to make tea, and I'm going to sit and meditate and truly think about what it is that I want to get out of this altar, what energy I want to put in and what energy I want to get back. If you're ever wondering why a spell isn't working, maybe it's because you're not putting enough energy into it. It's one thing to just say, I want XYZ, but sometimes you got to get your elbows in there and get a little dirty and let the universe know that you're willing to work for what you want. Now, I'm not saying that if you don't get everything that you want, that you must not be manifesting hard enough or giving enough energy. Sometimes you aren't meant to get what you're wishing for, and sometimes you'll get it in a way that you're not expecting and you don't want. Like this year, I wanted to be focused on my health. Well, then I injured my shoulder and I'm having to go to therapy 3 days a week. So I'm focusing on my health, but not in the way I wanted. I love using scarves as altar cloths because you can find some really cute ones, and especially at a thrift store for really cheap, like this one. And look at this cute little guy that I got off of Etsy. I love secondhand shopping, but this one just screamed spring to me, and I'm going to use it as an incense burner. And I think it's so cute because the smoke comes out of the chimney. And of course, I had to add the witch hair. And here are the spring candles that I made for my altar. I'll try to link the video up above if you're interested in seeing it. And here's my little fire maiden that I made. You'll see me shift some things around, and that's okay. That's all about making your altar exactly how you want it. I love the spring-like energy of this little bird. Eventually, I want my altar to look like very antique, but I'm working on it one bit at a time. And here's a candle I got from my good friend Elise over at the Kitsch Witch. And this little plate came off of Etsy, and I absolutely adore hydrangeas. So it's the brightest colored thing on this plate, but I love it. And my family goes crazy over the little robin's eggs at Easter, but unfortunately they don't have robin's eggs here on the base, so this Brax is the only thing I could get. And they're like 3 times bigger than a robin's egg. These egg candles were super simple to make. You literally just pour the candle wax into eggshells. And here is my completed spring equinox altar. It's super simple, but to me, it's everything that makes me smile and think of spring. And yes, there's only like 3 of those chocolate milk balls left. They're already gone. I told you, they don't last here. I hope you've enjoyed your time here today, and if you've made it this far, then you might like my videos. So please hit the like and subscribe button so you can see more. Love you. Bye.